are you guys ready for the last lesson of this unit? I am writing slope-intercept form, which we've been doing. So last time I gave you 2 points. The time before that, I gave you the slope and a point. So this was definitely the easiest because part of the puzzle was given to you. I at least gave you the n. All you had to do is solve for b. Last lesson, though, when we did writing from 2 points, you had to find the slope first. Then you had to use that to solve for b. Then you got to plug it into the equation. Okay, so this time you're going to be writing slope-intercept form from a table. Okay, and there's many ways to write an equation from a table. There is. I know as a 7th grade teacher, I kind of taught it a different way. But this is going to be solving it algebraically like we've been doing. Okay, so here's your example. Okay, and we usually do like the first example full out, right? So it says, write the equation of the line. Write the equation in slope-intercept form that represents the data in the table. Write the equation in slope-intercept form. So we're looking for y equals mx plus b that represents the data in the table. So of course, we're going to have an xy table here. Okay, and we're going to do 4 ordered pairs. So set up your table, please. Okay, and let's fill in some ordered pairs. Here we go. -12, 1. -10, 4. -8, 7. -4, 13. Okay. So we got a table of values. Now, one thing you could do, ignore this already drawn on the graph. One thing you could do is you could plot those points on a table, right? -12, 1, -10, 4, -8, 7. And you could follow those points, try and find the b, figure out the slope, and write the equation of the line. You could do that. It's not the best way to do that. Solving it algebraically is probably the best way, best strategy, because you never know what type of points you're going to be dealing with. Okay, so what do I need to know to write something in slope-intercept form? Well, I need to know n and b, meaning I got to figure out the slope and I got to figure out the y-intercept. Well, finding slope from a table. Have I taught you that? Better say yes. I've taught you how to find slope from a table. We did that way back in December. That was change in y over change in x. Remember, it's the same way of seeing if it's linear. You do change in y over change in x. So that's how we're going to start this. Change in y over change in x. I do all of these. Okay. From 1 to 4, that's an increase of 3. From -12 to -10, that's an increase of 2. So our first change in y over change in x would be 3/2. We should check it throughout the rest of the table, because if this table isn't linear, then it's not going to have a linear equation. It's not going to have slope-intercept form. So let's check that it's linear. From 4 to 7, that's an increase of 3. On the x side, from -10 to -8, that's an increase of 2. So that's still 3/2. Last one, from 7 to 13, that's an increase of 6. From -8 to 4, that's an increase of 4. So this time I have 6 over 4. Are these two things equivalent though? Yes, 6/4. If you divide each of those by 2, you'd get 3 over 2. So your slope is definitely 3/2. Okay, so we found slope. Now what? Got to solve for b. Okay, we have to find our we have to find our y-intercept. Okay, by the way, this would be step 1 if you want some steps. Step 1 would be find slope. Step 2 would be solve for b. This is where you get to plug things in to y equals mx plus b. Okay, so what can I plug into my y value? Did it give us any y values? Well, shoot, it gave us 4 y values. So I'm basically going to pick an ordered pair to use for my x and y. I can't use the 1 here and the -4 here because they're not from the same ordered pair. So pick any ordered pair that you want to. I usually just go with the top ordered pair. Sometimes if there's a 0 in one of them, then I pick 0 because 0 is easy to deal with. But I'm going to choose -12, 1. So what's my y value then? 1 equals m. Well, m was 3/2 times x, -12, plus b. So now we're going to solve for b. Okay, looks like I got some fractions to deal with. Don't be scared. Go get your calculator. 3 times -12. You take that, you divide by the bottom. 3 times -12 is -36. -36 divided by 2 is -18. Okay, drop down everything else. And we got to get b by itself. I basically got to get rid of this -18. How do I do that? I add 18 to it so that it cancels to nothing. But whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. 1 plus 18 is 19. So I just found that my b value is 19. Okay, so what would be the last thing to do? Here's your last step, step 3. What's the last thing to do? Write the equation, right? Basically plug in m and b. You're plugging in m and b to y equals mx plus b. Okay, so I start with y equals, I have something x plus whatever. What am I going to plug in for the m? Well, the m was 3/2. Okay, and then plus b, your b was 19, positive 19, so plus 19. Final answer, y equals 3/2 x plus 19. So hopefully that's all right. It's kind of the same process as last time. You have to find slope, but this time it's finding slope from a table. So that's change in y over change in x, which we've been doing for 1 billion years. After you find slope, plug in x, y, and m, solve for b. There you go. Okay, so now we're going to do some practice. Here's your next table. I'm only going to give you 3 ordered pairs on this one, just to make our lives a little bit easier. Okay, here are your ordered pairs: 8, -10, 10, -11, 12, -12. Okay, first thing I do, gotta find slope. So slope, change in y over change in x. I mean, if you need to write that every time, do it. Okay. Change in y over change in x. Well, from -10 to -11, that is actually decreasing by 1. It's going down. It's becoming more negative. And if you notice right here from -11 to -12, that's also decreasing by 1. We go to our x side, from 8 to 10, that's increasing by 2. 10 to 12, increase of 2. So my change in y is -1. Change in x is +2. -1 over 2, can you simplify it? Nah, it's already simplified. So slope is -1/2. You can stick that negative at the top if you want, and stick it out front. Usually I stick it out front. Okay. All right, now what do? We solve for b. Okay. One thing I want you to start thinking about is sometimes tables give you the b value. Sometimes it has 0, whatever. Okay. So something I always look for is if it has 0 in the x place, because then whatever the y is would be your b value. In this case, the table doesn't give it to us. Technically, I do have kids, or at least I had kids in 7th grade, that would find the y-intercept by counting backwards. So they would go to -9, -8, -7. It's like they would extend their table. And then on this side, they would go back to 6, 4, 2, 0. And they would find that point that's 0 and figure out the y value. You could do that. Sometimes that'll just waste all your time. Okay. So for me, I like to just do it algebraically. So I already have n, but I'm going to need an x and a y. So use something from the table. I'm going to just take this first point. My y value is -10 equals, we need our n times by our x, and then plus b. If you're lost on that, what it is, I'm taking y equals nx plus b. I'm plugging in the y, plugging in the n, plugging in the x, don't know the b. Okay, here we go. Let's do some multiplication. -1/2 times 8. Well, what's half of 8? Half of 8 is 4, but it's negative. Negative times positive is negative. So -1/2 times 8 is -4. Drop down all the things. Now let's go ahead and solve for b. So let's get b by itself. I want to cancel out this -4, so I'm going to add 4. Got to add 4 to both sides. -10 plus 4 is -6. So my b value is -6. Once you got your n and got your b, your job's basically done. You just have to write your final answer. So final equation for this table would be y equals -1/2 x minus 6. Remember, we don't really want plus -6. It's just kind of messy. So we write -6. Okay, I'm going to do a few more examples. I might throw some weird ones at you. Okay, so here's practice question 2. Set up a table and we'll do 3 ordered pairs again. Okay, here are your ordered pairs for question 2. We got -3, 4, -3, 2, and -3, 0. Whenever I see a 0 on a table, I pause for a second. I go, oh, did it just give me the y-intercept? Did it just give me the b value? Because that's like gold, man. But in this case, -3, 0, if you were to graph that, -3, 0 is like right here. That's not the y-intercept. That's the x-intercept. And that isn't really helpful for slope-intercept form. The intercept we're looking for is the y-intercept. So it didn't just magically give it to us, okay? But there's something else that I notice about this table. I'm noticing that all of the x values are 3. If all of your x values are 3, guess what your equation is? Do you know what it is? X equals -3. If all of your x values are -3, then your equation is x equals -3. This is one of those weird ones, okay? Now let's say you didn't recognize that right away. If you go to start your slope, change in y over change in x, you would notice that your y values are going down by 2. Your x values, they aren't changing, right? So your change in y over change in x would be -2 over 0. The thing is, if you take your calculator and you do -2 divided by 0, you get an error message. And remember, it is not okay to divide by 0. Dividing by 0 is a no-no. Having 0 on top is okay, but 0 on the bottom is a no-no. So the slope here is what? It's undefined. Okay? And when a slope is undefined, that should make you freeze and go, uh-oh, this is one of those special linear equations. This is where we have to think about Hoy Bucks, HOY VUX. If the slope is undefined, that's right here. It's a vertical line, undefined slope, and it's written as x equals some number. And then you look here and you go, oh yeah, x is always -3. That means the equation of the line is x equals 3. Excuse me, x equals -3. Okay. So hopefully that makes some sense. Okay, here's number 3. Set up a table, please. Do 3 ordered pairs. Here you go. -4, 7, 0, 10, and 4, 13. Okay, so like I said last time, whenever I see a 0 in a table, I kind of pause for a second and I go, did it just give me something cool? Well, -3, 0 was an x-intercept, but 0, 10, if you were to graph that, 0, 10, that'd be up here. That is a y-intercept. So I think you should probably circle that and tell yourself that that's the y-intercept, meaning you already know what b is. What's your value of b? It's 10. So our equation is going to be y equals something x plus 10, okay? So that's cool. Half of our job is done. We still got to find slope though. Okay, so let's go ahead and do all our changes in y and changes in x. This would be a great time to pause the video and just kind of do it on your own and hit play. So from 7 to 10, that's an increase of 3, 10 to 13, increase of 3, -4 to 0, increase of 4, 0 to 4 is an increase of 4. So my change in y over change in x was constantly 3/4, 3 over 4. So my slope is 3/4, okay? So if my b value is 10, my slope is 3/4, then the equation of the line is y equals 3/4 x plus 10. Okay. Okay, we got 2 more examples. Here's number 4. 3 ordered pairs to put in your table. Here we go. -12, 10, -9, 1, -6, -8. I would like you to pause the video. I will be showing my work, but pause the video, try the whole thing on your own. Hit play when you're ready. Okay, so I've already looked through my table. There's no cool points for us. There's no intercepts given, and it's definitely not an x equals or a y equals weird equation. Okay, so I'm going to find slope. From 10 to 1, that's going down by 9. So make sure you have a -9. From +1 to -8, that's also going down by 9. On the x side, -12 to -9, that's actually an increase of 3. It's becoming more positive. It's getting closer to 0, okay? From -9 to -6, that's an increase of 3. So my slope here, change in y over change in x, that would be -9 over 3. -9 divided by 3 simplifies to -3. So my slope here, -3. Now I go to solve for b. So this is where I plug in my y, my x, my m, and I solve for b. You can pick any ordered pair that you want to. I'm just going to go with this first one. So my y value was 10. Set that equal to my m, which is -3, times my x, which is -12, and then I add b. Now we solve for b. So I'm going to multiply these two real quick. -3 times -12. Negative times negative, positive. I got to get b by itself. So I want to get rid of this 36. Since it's positive, I'm going to subtract 36. Whatever I do on one side, I have to do to the other. 10 minus 36 is -26. So the value of b is -26. Well, if m is -3 and b is -26, then the equation of my line, or excuse me, equation of my table is y equals -3x minus 26. Whew. Okay, this last one is for you to do for your entry task problem. Whole thing on your own. You got it. I know you do. So let's set yourself up with a cute little table. 3 ordered pairs. Okay. 4, 11. That's an 11. Hopefully you can see that okay. 6, 21. 7, 26. Okay. You need to write the equation for that table in slope-intercept form. That is your practice question. Great job. See you guys in Zoom class. Bye.